all over the NHL, and especially not last night now, but the night before between the Predators and the Florida Panthers, where they deemed that was no goal, which is actually the call I thought, the NHL finally got it right. Apparently not. There were so many people all over Twitter that were flipping out about that one. So this one, and Boudreaux calls the challenge. It goes, I didn't even stand up when they scored without the game. People were standing up. I was like, that's not going to count. There's no way that's going to count.
Yeah.
But I guess there was no contact or not enough to cause an issue in front of the net. You were at home watching the broadcast. How did it look from there? Were you getting the same looks? I mean, did that look like that puck was going to go in? I mean, did the Ducks, you feel like get the fair chance there and make it 1-1?
Yeah, it was a weird one because, like you said, it gets thrown from behind the net, and then it bounces off a couple people, and Dubnyk kind of swats at it with his glove and bats it in. I think it goes in off Nate Prosser and just squeaks through his legs. I'm not sure if Henrik ever gets a touch at it. He's in the blue paint, so that's why I was a little bit surprised too. He gives Dubnyk a bit of a cross check. It's not like a violent cross check, but he puts a stick on him. So I thought, in this day and age, with how we have no idea what goalie interference is, that's something they could easily call and say he impeded his ability to make the save. But I think with the fact that what the refs were looking at is, Henry doesn't do anything to stop Dubnyk from making the save, and it's Dubnyk really in the end who puts it in his own net by knocking it in off Prosser. So it's a greasy one. I mean, we'll take it. It tied the game up, but it's one of those goals that you don't expect, that you're not surprised that Nick Ritchie is the one who got it, because he always gets the greasy one somehow. I mean, he was able to squeak one through Hellebuck in that game against Winnipeg where it barely crossed the line. Here, he doesn't even really have to touch the puck to throw it into the net.
He's just sitting there collecting as many points as he possibly can at the weirdest times, too. Nick Ritchie's not really had the cleanest of goals of late. And I really thought that went off of Adam Henrique, just from my vision at the game. I just felt like, because he was jamming at the puck, and that's where I was concerned about it, that Henrique actually got a stick in on Dubnyk. And I think he did, but it didn't really change the way the play was, I guess. So they would have called it no goal, obviously. But a weird one for Nick Ritchie. It's tied 1-1. The Ducks have really started to take over at this point with chances in the second period. Montour would get another chance, but Dubnyk makes a hell of a glove save. I remember watching that too. I was like, oh, smokes, dude, that guy. And he was seeing pucks really well tonight. Dubnyk made a lot of really key saves for the Wild. So keeping the Wild in it at this point, which is great to say if you're a Ducks fan. It's 1-1 at the end of the second period. 10-8, the Wild have the shot advantage. 23-19 at the end of that. But don't let that fool you. The Ducks' chances were much better in the second period. You could really tell, as you said at the beginning of it, that they know that a win here would put them into the playoffs. So you could feel the tide turning, Eddie. It felt like that in the second period, too. The building started to get crazy. And that was the one time that you heard anybody cheer for the Blackhawks in Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the Wild goal, they just really turned it on, and they took control of this game. And, that would end up continuing into the third. But it's just a strong effort, and it's great to see this team. Obviously, they knew that a win would get them in, and they really just kicked it to another gear. You'd like to see them do that no matter what, but I think knowing that a win, especially in this game, would get you into the playoffs, that was a huge momentum boost for this team, and they really picked things up because it's hard to go into this game and have a lot of motivation when your number one goaltender is out and you don't know for how long, and one of your best defensemen is going to be out for the foreseeable future. It's a tough game to get out of bed for and get motivation, but they're able to pull it on and turn on the Jets for the third period.
Well, hey, just to get this third period off the ground here, the Ducks just come flying out. I felt like this was one of the most motivated teams that we've seen in a while for the Ducks. They get a strong period going, lots of pressure in this. There was at a point in the beginning of this period where the Ducks held for almost about a minute and 30 seconds. Getzlaf controlling the play. But this was one of those plays, too. They were making so many passes and holding pressure that I think they could get a clean look. People in their seats around me were like, come on. They're like freaking out about it. But it's like, you get such the vantage point from being up that high in the arena that you can see opening. But it's like, these guys are on the ice. You can't. People freak out. That's why I hate the shoot crowd. They drive me nuts. Oh my god! Don't
get me started on that. That's shoot it. That is one of the worst things that you can do at a game. That's probably the thing that bothers me the most, and it happens at every level too. It's not like it just happens at the NHL. It happened at like your like local like kids hockey or games, or it happened at the OHL games. It happens everywhere, and there's always like the two people in the crowd who no matter what, the guy will just enter the zone and they'll be like, shoot the puck. It could be like 7-0, and they'll still be chanting to shoot the puck.
Yeah, and it's like, let them try to make a play. Like, you don't know what's going on down on the ice. There's a reason why you're in the stands and you're not playing in the NHL. But those guys always drive me nuts, man. Unless it's a kid. If it's a kid, I get it. They want to see their guy score. But if you're an adult, you don't have an excuse. Like,
no.
you need to relax. But that's just what happened. And I get it. It happens everywhere. So, yeah, the Ducks came out with a lot of pressure in the third period, which was much needed. Miller has to make another great save off a point shot and a rebound. He's looked good, man. Ryan Miller coming in, what he's been expected to do this season. And, dude, I love that guy's goalie setup. His pads are incredible. I love those. Yeah. The all black, all matching. But
with the mask,
it's hard. Dude, it looks so good. Like, his setup is great. But he looked great tonight, man. I was really impressed with Ryan Miller. I don't know. It's so much to ask of a backup goaltender to come in. And this is such an important game for his team. And for him to pull through, it was just amazing, man. He was well deserved of the media's, written in first star rather. Did you feel the same way about Ryan Miller? Yeah. He just had a hell of a game.
He's had such a weird season as a backup, something we really haven't seen from the Ducks in a while, where he's had to come in some interesting situations in the middle of games. Well, I think one time he had to come in at the beginning of overtime and into the shootout. There was the one game where he ended up getting a win without making a save. So he's had an interesting year, but he's been solid pretty much all year. He's had a couple shaky starts here and there, but you can't expect him to be dominant every game. And he gets thrown into a game here where all of a sudden the Ducks can clinch, and he plays great. He didn't have to make too many 10-bell saves, but that save that you just mentioned was probably the best of the night, because it does create a little bit of a rebound. And they get a good shot off the rebound, and he makes a good save with his pad. So I've just been really impressed with what he's been able to do. I mean, he's a veteran guy. He's been around the league. He knows what to do. He's one of the best American goaltenders of all time. So he knows what he can do, and I think it's been a great addition. And he's here next year, isn't he? Is he signed for next year? So that will be great for John Gibson and for the Ducks as well, because I feel like if he can continue to play like this and provide some very good relief performances when John Gibson's out of the lineup, it's very valuable to the Ducks moving forward.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to disrespect him in the last post-game, saying that if he's our starter going into the playoffs, that I don't expect him to go deep. It's just a different style of hockey, and we all know that John Gibson's better at this stage in his career. But the great things would start to happen here for the Ducks. They get a lot of zone pressure here. Ducks able to get it to the point to Josh Manson. He throws it on net. Dubnyk with the save, but he can't clear the rebound away from his crease. And who else other than Ondrej Kase cashes in for a goal. Makes it 2-1. Now the crowd blows up. Dude, Dubnyk was pissed after this goal, but everyone else in the building was stoked. It's 2-1 Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad rebound that ends up giving up, and nobody really backchecks well enough to get Ondrej Kase, but he was pumped. He's always smiling, and he's always pumped when he scores, but he had talked about in the post-game interview last game that was probably the biggest goal he scored of his career. Well, I think this one might top it, because this obviously clinches playoffs for the Ducks this year. What a season he's had. What a breakout season. He's got now 38 points in 64 games. 20 goals on the season for a guy who was a former 7th-round pick. I mean, the Ducks continue to find these guys late, and you look at the last 3 games and how important they've been for the Ducks. Kase had 2 assists in the game against LA. He had the OT winner against Colorado, and he had the game winner in this game. Stepping it up when the Ducks need him in important games. I mean, he's been so valuable to this team, and he's really made it so they're a 3-line threat.
No, it's true, and that whole play was started because the Wild turned the puck over in their own defensive zone.
Yeah,
Prosser gets the pass from Dubnyk. They kind of created their own trouble on that one, and that's why Dubnyk was pissed, because he got a chance to kind of wrap it around the glass, and he decided to give it to Prosser, who turned it over there. But Kase made no mistake in getting that puck in, hitting his 20th goal of the season, like you said. Do you think that adds a little bit of money to his contract, hitting that 20-goal mark, right?
That's
just going to be a huge point when they come to negotiations.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, you go into it, if you're at 19, you're like, I hit 19 this year, and I know it's just 1 goal difference, but, 20-goal scorer sounds a lot better than 19-goal scorer. Same with if you hit 30 instead of hitting 29, that sounds a lot better, and it looks better on your resume going into negotiations. So that's going to bump the price up a bit, but I mean, I think he's worth it. I mean, he's been consistently good all season. He's such a great energy player for the Ducks. Yeah, when he's on, especially as he's been for the last 3 games, he's one of the best forwards the Ducks can put over the boards, and he was one of the better forwards in this game, too. That line was very good. They didn't look too good on shot attempts, but they contributed a lot to the offense. Obviously, Richie getting the first goal and Kasha getting the game winner.
No, it was such an important piece, Kasha and Henrique, on this team this year. And we can get more into that at our end of season wrap up this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be interesting when they go into negotiations. I mean, Andre Kasha has been a hot topic for us these past few weeks, especially people asking us questions of, what do we think about him or what's he going to get? Man, hitting that 20-goal mark, I don't know. Bob Murray's going to have to open that wallet and make some interesting decisions this offseason on how he's going to pay him and how he's going to pay Nick Ritchie. And, Nick Ritchie's was a high draft pick, and he's at the end of his entry level. So going to be an interesting offseason for the Ducks. Obviously, we'll get to that in a bit. But the Wild decided to pull Dubnyk with 2:23 to go. And then here we are, Cogliano with the empty net goal. Ducks seal the victory here in the playoffs, 6 straight years we talked about before, and then 11th time in the last 13. We need to get a cup. We need to have a deep run. We need to get to the final. I mean, I don't want to see these Game 7 losses the Ducks have finally overcome. Just a good feeling, though, man. I've just high expectation going in, but maybe not as much pressure. They didn't win the division. Yeah. That's another thing that maybe is going to help our Ducks team here. I just hope they can get into that division spot. The Kings have got to lose, but well played game for the Ducks in a must-win situation, really, to get over the hump and points and cash in now, especially with the injury to Gibson. This gives him time to rest if the team decides to rest him and rely on Miller. But what a game, man! Just a good game here by the Ducks.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting position because they don't come in as that contender team, like you said. They don't have all that pressure of being a team that's expected to go so far and expected to go all the way, and even really expected to win their first-round matchup if they end up playing San Jose. I feel like they're going to be the underdogs going into pretty much every series that they go into, and that'll be a new look, I think a new feel for a lot of the players in that locker room. And it could benefit them. I mean, it's benefited teams in the past. I think Nashville a couple of years ago was the 8th seed, and they made it pretty far. And you've had plenty of 8 seeds in the past. Another one that comes to mind is New Jersey, when they went all the way and they played LA in the Stanley Cup Final. I think that was the last time Adam Henrique had been in the playoffs as well. So it sometimes benefits you coming in without all that pressure, especially when the Ducks have faced it for the last 5 seasons. Coming in as the Pacific Division champions, you're expected to go to at least the Western Conference Final, if not further. So I hope so. I'm interested to see how they deal with this new situation and if it benefits them, or if the team just isn't as good as they were the last few seasons and that ends up showing. It'll be interesting to see what they can perform in the first round.
Well, they have a chance to do it. Both the Kings and the Ducks have played 80 games, so that means they each have 2 left. But, I mean, honestly, this is a tight race. I mean, the Ducks could go up to second place because the San Jose Sharks lost to Dallas 2 days ago, and so they're looking at only a 1-point lead over the Ducks, and then the Kings are 1 point back behind Anaheim. They really control their own destiny here. We could see a second or third place finish, so there is a chance for home ice advantage. But it's going to be interesting just because the Kings get the second half of the back-to-back against Minnesota actually tonight, and then the Ducks play Dallas tomorrow. This is the way this always shakes up. It feels like you and I have been talking about, like all these games coming to the end, that they're going to be just huge because of their interdivision games or playoff seeding games. How do you feel about the Ducks' chances here? Do you think they can get it up into second, or is San Jose, you feel like, going to make quick work of Colorado?
I don't know. Colorado is at that point now where they're desperate to get in. They're only a point up on St. Louis. They play St. Louis one more time this season. That's going to be a massive game for playoff implications. Basically, you win and you're in that game. Because if Colorado wins that game, they're at 95. There's no way the Blues can catch them. And if the Blues catch them, they move 1 point in front of Colorado. So I think they're going to play hard. I believe it's their next game as well, I think, is against San Jose.
Chicago.
Yeah, so Colorado plays
San
Jose next. So they're going to want to win that game to make sure that Blues game isn't as important as it could be. And they'll clinch with a win against San Jose. So I think that helps out our hopes a bit. And San Jose's lost 4 in a row.